Welcome to the 20th reading of my memoir, The Innocence of Guilt. A coronation and sweets off ration. No buses came out to the camp other than school buses, so Mum walked a little over a mile down Brandon Road to reach the town. All her shopping, including coal, she brought home in Dad's wheelbarrow or carried in bags. Sometimes she gave me a ride in the wheelbarrow if my legs grew tired. I never gave a thought to her tired legs. Although she prided herself on being a good walker, she must have sometimes dreaded the trek into town. Walking home one day without the wheelbarrow, a car drew up beside us. The driver, a friendly American, poked his head out of the window and asked us if we wanted a ride. I thought it would be great, but after Mum spoke with him, she said quietly, "Don't look at him, just keep on walking." As we continued on, his car cruising alongside us, he talked to her all the time, inviting her to get inside. I didn't know why she wouldn't, but I picked up on her uneasiness all the same. After a while, he gave up and drove off ahead of us, disappearing from sight. So scared he might be waiting for us down a side lane, I trembled with fear all the way home. Later on, I heard Mum telling one of the women about it and how shocked she had been. The woman laughed at her. "You're stupid, aren't you? You think you're so much better than us. You should have gone with him. They pay well. How do you think we all manage here?" Mum went ballistic at home and complained to Din Din about the women, about their low standards and what an awful place we lived in, how she wasn't brought up to live that way. I picked up that the nice American had wanted my mother to do something bad and that she wasn't going along with it. Does that mean that all the other mothers are bad then? I don't know if she told Dad about it, but she did start talking about putting our names on the council house list. When we lived at the flat, a visit to the Comet cinema was a frequent Saturday night treat, and we continued this tradition once my father brought in money again. While the cinema filled up, I snuggled down into the comfortable padded seat, waiting to be transported into a fantasy world. The Tarzan films I adored gave fuel to fanciful ideas of living in the forest with my brother, always in search of a different plane of existence. Not so much the occasional scary picture, but the long walk home afterwards in the dark along Brandon Road became my undoing. My father often mentioned a ghost he claimed to have seen as a young man. It had risen up out of a sewer grating and followed him along the street. Every time we reached a certain tree halfway to the huts, he'd start talking about the ghost. It would be dark as dark could be, with only the moon to lead us home, and he'd go on and on about the spectre of his youth, causing me to plead, "It's not really true, Dad, is it?" He'd never admit to making it up to scare me. The ghostly shapes of the trees lent validity to his story, and I was never so glad to make it home in one piece as on those nights. During daylight hours, I could honestly say I didn't believe one word of his claim, but not on that road in the dark. There, I believed everything he said. The supposed big event of 1953 was the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II on June 2nd. Every schoolchild received a silver-plated teaspoon with a coloured engraving of the Queen's head on the handle. A useless gift, since I never drank tea. The best part for me was the day off school and the tea party in the Sunday school hut. Scrumptious food appeared from out of thin air, several plates of sandwiches, and an enormous mouth-watering cake. Who provided it? The Americans, I would imagine. We sat quietly at the table, all cleaned up, not an easy thing for some of the boys, who usually looked and acted like little ragamuffins from the old workhouse. I wondered why my mum wasn't there helping the other mums, and I was self-conscious of being squished in the middle of Christine and her sisters, as if I had no right to be there. At school, we also enjoyed a special tea laid on in the canteen for the celebration. Mum came to pick David and me up afterwards. A lot of food still sat on people's plates, and she whispered to me, "Don't let them throw it out. Wait till everyone's gone, then we'll pick it all up to take home." She handed me a bag, and I dutifully went around the tables, picking up the leftovers, dainties, sandwiches, and so on, anything that hadn't been bitten into. I hoped that nobody I knew saw me taking them, especially one of the teachers. How would I make them understand that we never had enough food at home, that David and I were always hungry? Despite being, for the most part, invisible at school, I was awarded the reading prize. Who else could they give it to but me? The pride of winning dampened by the shame of catching head lice. Mum sat me down at the table, applied stinky purple-coloured methylated spirit on my head, and combed through my hair with a fine-toothed metal comb. As each flea landed on the table, she cracked its back with a fingernail. I cried all the way through the procedure. Nothing could induce me to stop, not even the biggest bag of sweets I'd ever seen, sitting beside the collection of dead bodies on the table. Coinciding with what I considered the worst humiliation of my first 10 years of life was every child's dream. Sweets were no longer rationed. After the summer holidays, I left North Terrace Junior to attend a secondary modern school. 10-year-olds made the transfer in Suffolk, whereas in Essex, where I came from, the age was 11. If I had been more socially mature and academically sound, it wouldn't have been too much of an adjustment, because my late October birthday made me one of the oldest children in the class. I missed riding on the old rickety biscuit tin, although the new bus proved a much smoother ride. Everything at my new enormous school overwhelmed me. Deposited into a strange alien world with no knowledge of the language or customs. Very soon my problems with arithmetic came to light, but instead of hitting me with a ruler or ignoring me, when my homeroom class took arithmetic, I lined up with some other children for the remedial class. The teacher made me line up little objects on the felt board, count out loud up to 10, then remove one or two of them and count the remaining ones. Simple sums, so easy I suspected her of playing games with my mind. I took it all in stride until the girls in my homeroom class poked fun at me for being with the backward children. To have now joined the likes of such children filled me with a sense of alienation, and I would imagine sent out clear messages to all around of my low self-esteem. I became a target for bullying and learnt to be on my guard every day. The girls in my class regularly emptied my school bag out onto the ground, throwing my treasured fountain pen as far away as they could on the school field. I had to hunt for it in the grass, causing me to be late for class. Bullying, even within the confines of the classroom, generally went unnoticed. The teacher often unfairly reprimanded me for talking in class as I fought over my right to read a shared textbook. For punishment, I had to write compositions. I didn't know why writing should be deemed a punishment. It didn't matter anyway. As I soon discovered, we would be leaving Meldon Hall and moving back to Colchester. 6 weeks at my new school, and I faced going to another one. It wasn't the move my mother hoped for. Over the summer, she befriended a woman from the Huts who had recently moved into one of the new council houses, and she took me with her on a visit. Mum's dream house, so spacious, running hot water, bathroom, inside lavatory, and hot water radiators for heating every room. I raced up and down stairs with the little girl who lived there, thinking how lovely it would be if we too could live in a house as big and beautiful as hers. Mum thought that since Dad was settled in his new job, the next step would be to have our name come up on the council house list. Obviously, Dad knew nothing about the list because he'd been making entirely different plans. I found myself caught up in the arguments concerning the move. Mum wanted Dad to wait for a council house, but he said, "I'll never agree to paying rent to the council," and so she gave up. We weren't going to live in Colchester proper, but on a farm a few miles away. I said I didn't want to go. What I thought I would be missing, I have no idea. Dad did nothing but talk about how wonderful the farm would be for all of us. Rent-free accommodation again, a tied house, a house that went with your job. He obviously hadn't learnt any lessons from the last time. Dad's job, gardener come handyman, and Mum's job, cleaning the farmhouse. Din would also have the opportunity to do odd jobs around the farm. And for us children, it would be all the fun of the animals. What kind of animals will there be, Dad? Oh, there'll be pigs, cows, chickens, ducks, horses. You'll love it. Horses? Yes, lots of horses. Will I be able to have my own horse? I don't know about that. Maybe. I asked Mum about the horse, hoping for more than a maybe, and after all my pestering, she gave me the answer I wanted. Yes, you'll have a horse. That did it for me. Moving day couldn't come fast enough. I told the girls at school that I was moving to a farm and getting my very own horse. At first they didn't believe me, but after days of my boasting, they grew more interested. A small group gathered around, peppering me with questions. I made a lot of stuff up, and before long I was the envy of every child I talked to. I bragged my way into their hearts. They believed me to be the luckiest girl alive. I almost believed it too. My last day at school, and I hopped on the crowded bus to be driven home. The strangest sensation crept over me as the bus gradually shed its passengers in twos and threes at the various stops, and they walked out of my life as I waved goodbye, knowing I would never see them again. None of them my best friends, but more familiar than the unknown friends, if any, of my future. The huts were the last stop on the route, and only a handful of children remained as we reached the lower end. All but me were dropped off before the driver took the last stretch of road to the upper hut end. I wanted to tell him, "You won't see me again because I'm going away," but I couldn't get the words out. A sinking feeling enveloped me, and I fought back the tears. I jumped off the bus and imagined my horse waiting for me at my new home. That expectation became the only good reason I could think of for moving on to my new life. Thank you for listening. Please feel free to subscribe, like, or comment on this reading. And hopefully you will tune in to the next one. Bye for now.